For more on this, we're also joined by Neama Rahmani. He's the president and co-founder of the West Coast Trial Lawyers and former federal prosecutor, joining us from Los Angeles, California. Neama, great to see you as well. As I mentioned to Steve, there are a lot of interesting times here. Your initial thoughts now on this new indictment. Timing, of course, is certainly very key in all of this.
Angie, like Steve and Jessica said, this is really a pared down, more narrow indictment. And what Jack Smith is trying to do is trying to avoid a motion to dismiss, because according to the Supreme Court, there are different categories of acts. There's the constitutional acts, there's absolute immunity. There's other official acts where there's immunity for the former president, but that can be overcome. But importantly, there is no immunity for personal acts. So what Jack Smith is trying to do is say Trump's communications with his outside lawyers, the fake elector scheme, that's actions of a candidate for president. That is personal. That is not protected. And to the extent that he was communicating with the Justice Department officials, and that individual was unindicted co-conspirator Jeffrey Clark, those allegations are out of the indictment, because arguably Trump could argue that as part of his official duties, he was overseeing the integrity of the election.
So by doing that, and as we talked with Steve as well, sort of whittling it down and getting very, very specific in terms of what the indictment is tailored to, focused on here, we're not far from that presidential race. We've got a debate that's coming up in a couple of weeks. What kind of impact now, as you point out, actions of a candidate of a president, not of a former president, in which, you know, there would be that level of protection. What kind of impact do you think it could have moving forward now, with us just being 2 months away from voting day?
Well, Angie, there was no way we were going to have a trial in this case before the election. And this really doesn't change things, although it's going to push things out. Obviously, if Trump is reelected in November, a sitting president can't be prosecuted. So all the cases will be dismissed. His criminal problems will go away. But if Kamala Harris wins, this is by far and away the most serious of the cases and the best case for prosecutors. New York is not a serious case, even though Trump has been convicted. There's likely going to get probation. The South Florida classified documents case has been dismissed, although Jack Smith appealed that dismissal yesterday. And the Georgia case is on hold because of some alleged improprieties by the prosecutor there. So this is the most important case. And the way Jack Smith has handled it the whole way is being narrow, focused, surgical against Donald Trump. That's why he didn't charge Giuliani, Meadows, all the other individuals that were charged in the other cases. He wants this case to go forward if and only if Trump loses in November.
We've heard from Donald Trump. Of course, he's responded on this, pushing back hard. Is this going to resonate with voters, do you think? Because that's what it'll come down to. If Donald Trump, we know, returns to the White House, and as you say, you know, point blank, this is a moot point here. If Kamala Harris comes, and we're looking at some action here. But it comes down to the voter now, Neama. So what do you think the impact is going to be, or the impression this is going to have on the voter?
Well, there's so few undecided voters here.
Yeah.
And this is something we've been dealing with for many, many years, right? It started with the January 6th committee in Congress, then the impeachment proceedings, then the first indictment in D.C., then the Georgia indictment. So none of this is really new information. Most voters have made up their minds. Some think that Donald Trump is a criminal. Others think that he's being railroaded and treated unfairly by the Justice Department. So there's a small number of undecided voters that are obviously going to decide this election, but they're not going to see a jury trial in this case, if ever, until well after the election.
So then what are you watching for then?
I'm watching for a small handful of swing states and whether Kamala Harris's prosecutor versus felon argument resonates, whether she can pick up where Joe Biden left off. He was very behind. She's made up significantly, both in terms of the polling and in fundraising over the past month to actually make it a race. So it's going to be an interesting 2 months and change until early November.
Interesting and strategic indeed, Neama. Thank you so much for this. Neama Rahmani is the former federal prosecutor and president and co-founder of West Coast Trial Lawyers, joining us from Los Angeles, California. Again, Neama, thank you for this.
Thanks, Andrew. See you soon.